What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for as time progresses. I'm also going to talk about SPY and a couple of other tickers, and what's happening with the week going into next week. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. So anyways, let's talk about what's going on with the market. I wanted to break down something very important on the weekly charts on SPY. And one thing you'll notice is that what tends to happen historically on the weekly chart is we tend to get a little pullback during around the third to fourth week of November before the market tends to push up higher. If we go back historically, that's what tended to happen. If you look at 2020, right, as we approach this November period, the market was rallying, pushing up quite a bit in 2020. And then during the second and third week of November, we saw a little pullback before the market continued higher to end the year of 2020. If you look at 2021, I just want to go over a couple of examples, by the way. If we go right here on the chart, you will notice that for the charts, this is actually the weekly charts for the month of November. We started November, we were bullish, right? We came down a bit, started to hold up. Then during the third week of November, we started to see a slight pullback. And as soon as December started, we started another uptrend for 2021. And the market continued to rally towards the end of the year, approaching January. So that's approaching January of 2022. But notice how we had this little pullback very close to this Thanksgiving period. And then for 2022, all right, if we go to 2022, something very similar happened. Basically, the market held up very nicely. It was continuing to rally going into November. We came down, we pushed higher. Then we had a very indecisive week right before Thanksgiving, the holiday started. And then, during the final 2 weeks, the market continued to rally. So sometimes it's a little bit different. Usually it's during that second to third week, we tend to see somewhat of a pullback before the market continues higher for the end of the year. So it is a possibility that that could be happening soon. However, there's no confirmation of us getting a pullback just yet. Now, the market's very overbought, but we're going to be watching to see how we end up reacting to some particular levels. And that's going to determine which way this market ends up going. So as a reminder, for earnings, we have Zoom and just a couple of others for Monday. But for Tuesday, we have NVIDIA, Kohl's, and just a couple of others. And we'll be watching to see how this ends up affecting their share prices and such moving forward. On top of this, I just want to call out that if you look at the economic calendar, for Monday, we have the 3-month bill auction, the 6-month bill auctions coming out. For Tuesday, we have the FOMC minutes coming out. That's going to be very important because this will affect the market to some extent. Then for Wednesday, we have the initial jobless claims, just a couple of things coming out. There's no trading on Thursday thanks to Thanksgiving going into next week. And Friday is when we have the PMI report. That's going to be pretty much it. Very short week next week. And generally during these short weeks, we get very low volume, and we could see this still affect the markets. So what do I think is going to happen? The answer is, guys, I can't promise anything or say anything with high conviction yet because the market is stuck. The market is stuck between supply and demand. When we hit or get very close to this 452 zone, when we get very close to it, to the high 451s, the market tends to reject and come back down. And whenever we get very close to 448, the low right there, we tend to see the buyers step in. The market's been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for 4 straight days, pretty much. We also had another consolidation day on Tuesday, but we started off a little stronger than we just consolidated. So we've been stuck pretty much for almost 4 straight days. The market's not really doing much. Well, there was once a time when we had 3 days of consolidation, or 2.5 days of consolidation here, and the market got this breakout before CPI. We don't really have a catalyst that's going to launch the market that high or that low. So here's my simple view, guys. My view has not changed on the market. If SPY manages to break 452, we could pump a little bit higher, especially approaching NVIDIA's earnings. If we do break that resistance, 453.5 will be a zone to watch for. Then we have the gap fill at 455. And if we reject, if we end up getting rejection here, you could argue that we have a head and shoulders pattern and a bearish divergence developing on SPY, and that could play out. However, there's no confirmation of a rejection, and we need to see SPY lose 448 to turn bearish. As of right now, there's no sign, and it's just stuck right now. So we'll just have to see how it moves. But I want to call out something very important. Basically, when you go on SPY and end up checking out the daily chart, we're stalling so far very close to a very critical level. So if we go back on the chart like this and we look at where this level is, this corresponds with the high we made back in September. Back in September, we were very close to this level. SPY was basically at this 452 area, and we also had resistance at 452 flat. So we're going to be watching, can we break this resistance? If we achieve it, we could push a little higher. And if we fail to do so, then it is what it is. But this is a level that's worth noting and a level that's worth watching. Now, another thing I just wanted to call out, I'm going to delete some of these lines just to make this chart look a little cleaner, is our support. Now, you could argue that we have this big gap down below. I don't know if we're going to fill this gap soon or not. It's going to depend on if we lose 448. Because if we lose it, yes, we could get a very healthy pullback. If not, I mean, we're just going to be stuck consolidating for the time being. So that's all the market really did today, just consolidated for most of the day. Very boring day. Despite all the options expiring, the market makers made it very hard for anyone holding options. So that's pretty much it. And we'll be watching to see if we break any level. On the QQQ, it's also very indecisive because we're approaching this high from right here. This is like near the high we saw back in July of 2023. And this is very important because the QQQ is continuing to stall. Now, as we're stalling, we're still stuck right here at this resistance. We're going to be watching to see if sellers end up stepping in. But here's something I want to note, okay? If we look at the 1 hour time frame, if we actually zoom in, and you will see that the QQQ is just continuing to trade completely sideways. It's very indecisive, completely stuck. And I think that NVIDIA could dictate how this thing ends up moving. Now, one could argue that we have this like topping formation. This is forming like a, not just like a cup and handle, but we're basically turning very distributive. If that's the case, I would be looking for a break of 382. If we lose this, I would turn more bearish. So far, we're just stuck going back and forth between supply and demand. We'll be watching this very carefully. A stock that's very important, especially going into next week, is going to be NVIDIA. NVIDIA is so far holding up quite decently. We came just short of our 500 target. It actually came a little short and we just rejected from here instead. So with that being said, I would say that the best thing to do is watch and see how NVIDIA moves, especially for Monday and Tuesday, approaching its earnings. We could be forming a flag right here. This is something that's worth noting. You could draw out this little flag. If this plays out, we could anticipate that NVIDIA might, get a bounce very soon, at least approaching its earnings. I'll be watching to see how it, holds up. You could draw out a flag that looks just like this, depending on like your timing and such. But if Nvidia continues to consolidate a bit, are we about to get a big break because of earnings or not? So we'll just have to wait and see. But for now, it's starting to downtrend just a bit. We'll see if we could try to get back to retest 500. My gut's telling me that it might make an attempt to retest 500 and just continue to trade sideways. It might become very boring because of the very weak week we're getting ahead of us. And I'm thinking that it might just be range bound between 490 and 500 for some time before we see anything else like that. So we're just going to be watching just to see how NVIDIA moves. It has its earnings coming up, and I'll be talking more about this later on Sunday. For Tesla, we're looking kind of indecisive once again. Tesla basically had a nice drop that came after lots of bearish news from yesterday. And now we could be forming a possible inverse cup and handle. So we have like a cup here, like that handle that's forming. We're going to be watching this resistance very close to this 237 zone, so like right around here. We'll be watching to see if Tesla rejects off of this or not. And that's going to be very key, at least for the chart for the time being. So if we get this rejection, okay, we're going to be anticipating some more downside for Tesla. But if we want to turn bullish, want to see it get above 238, we're going to be watching NVIDIA's earnings to see how it affects us. And if we get this rejection, if this is an inverse cup and handle, there's going to be a risk of it coming back down to 230. If we lose that, I would turn bearish. So if we lose 230, I'm going to turn bearish because today we came below it, then we got bought right back up. If we end up closing below it, that's a bearish signal. And if we get above 238, I would turn bullish. Otherwise, we're just going to be stuck consolidating between the range for an extended period of time. So that being said, I mean, there's not a whole lot else that's going on right now. Apple is just very flat, not really doing a whole lot, going back and forth between supply and demand. It broke below this zone we had, but it's still just barely holding up, looking very flat. If you want to be bearish on Apple, you want to see it lose 188. So far, it hasn't happened. So I'm just going to be patient and watch this moving forward. But with that being said, guys, there's not really a whole lot for me to talk about. I'm going to give you guys a better hypothetical view of the market going into tomorrow and why I'm still very bullish for December. But for now, I just want to mention that for the short term, we have to still wait and see what happens. The market is very indecisive, it's just kind of stuck. So just be patient and do what you have to do, guys. And with that being said, I just want to thank you for listening. All right, so have a great day. I'll see you guys very soon. I'm going to be talking more about the longer term for SPY, what I think is going to likely play out. I can't promise anything though. Like I said before, we're very indecisive, so we'll just have to see. But I'm going to go over some more hypothetical situations and show you guys something that might change your view. So with that being said, please have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and enjoy your Friday. Have fun for this Friday night. Take care, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks again, and peace out.